The First Continental Congress. The First Continental Congress is key because it was supposed to be an attempt to unify the opposition to the Intolerable Acts. It was not a group really with independence on its mind. It was a group trying to come to some modus vivendi between the colonies and Great Britain. It did endorse some key issues worth mentioning from a theoretical point of view. For example, they denied parliamentary supremacy with regard to the colonies, figuring that they lacked any representation in Parliament, in fact, and until they did, Parliament could not reign supreme here. It attacked the suspension of the colonial assemblies that had taken place. It used the concept of natural rights, that is, that all people were born with rights endowed by their creator, and it was the purpose of governments to secure those rights when endorsing the Suffolk results. It attempted to provide, in essence, as I said, a modus vivendi with England. It proposed a return to imperial sovereignty, not an all-out break with England and the creation of a new country. Now, a number of colonies were invited, but that doesn't mean they all showed up. Some of the newer colonies, such as Florida and Quebec, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland, did not attend, though were invited. Georgia did not attend, where it was controlled by a royal governor. The West Indian Sugar Islands did not attend, mostly because of their fear that if there were to be a break with England, it would provide their slaves with an opportunity to rise up. So, by September of 1774, when these assemblies met in Philadelphia, they met once again for some sort of modus vivendi. A way of living is all it means. Modus vivendi means a mode of living, a way of continuing on as a British subject. Their fear was that the British system, or the British government as it was currently working, was trying to overthrow their ancient liberties. What they outlined was a plan that would have the king appoint a president general, and the colonial assemblies would select a council of legislators. The council of legislators would have the power of veto, and so any parliamentary legislation that applied to America, this legislative council could veto. That was one proposal, which was not supported. The First Continental Congress instead passed a Declaration of Rights and Grievances and condemned the coercive acts, as I had said. Basically, they attacked the restrictive policies, the punitive policies Britain had imposed on the colonies, and started a new series of economic retaliations, of non-importations, of embargoes, to try to punish Britain for what it had done. Some leaders in Britain, however, were also hoping for some kind of compromise. William Pitt, who was now in the House of Lords, had asked Parliament to try to come to some solution. One that he proposed was ending Parliament declaring that it did not have the power to tax the colonies and recognizing the Continental Congress as a legal assembly. If Parliament agreed to this, he said he asked that the parliamentary supremacy could be acknowledged, and they could have some meaningful relationship still with the colonies. The British government rejected the proposal put forth by William Pitt, and instead set out more strict terms ordering Americans to pay for its own defense garrisons and administration, and acknowledging Parliament's authority to tax them. In other words, England came to no compromise with the colonies. In fact, it declared that the colonies would pay their own way from now on within the British imperial system, and so that would require even higher taxes. So the First Continental Congress, in essence, did not accomplish much in the sense that neither the Congress nor Britain was able to come to some kind of agreement or compromise that would allow some autonomy within the British imperial system. However, some interesting things that the First Continental Congress did authorize. For example, it authorized violence to protest the intolerable acts and the non-exportation resolves. So these are very, very radical, very aggressive steps. First of all, they were taking part in an extra-legal organization and had resolved to convene 1 year after that to address any future problems or to see where they stood at that point. Most nations consider such an action treason or an act of war. So even though this was an attempt to come to some sort of compromise with Britain as a way of continuing to exist, the First Continental Congress did indeed take some rather aggressive steps early on.